Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I wanted to show you how you could build your own peristaltic glow lamp. It's probably more of a nightlight than a lamp though. What you're really going to need to start with is some of these 3D parts, and if you're interested in making this, I can make these available. I did not 3D print the mounting for the jacks that I put into this enclosure, so I did just drill those with a drill bit. And this is just a 5.5 millimeter power jack. And this is some 22 AUG silicone jacket wire. I think this is a higher temp wire than some of the other jackets. And I'm soldering a lot of this for the screw terminals on the motor control board, just to give something for it to bite into when you screw it down. So again, I added these holes with just a drill. So if you download these files, they won't have the mounting holes for the power jack or the front potentiometer. And this is a little power control board for motors, for DC motors. I think it goes up to 24 volts. And here is the Peristaltic pump that I ordered on Amazon. I think this was about $12 when I ordered it. And it is a 12 volt DC motor one. And seems to have something around 1/4 inch outlets. I think it's a little bit smaller than 1/4 inch tubing. And this was a 12 volt UV LED strip that I paired with the power supply coming in. And these are 632 brass inserts. I believe all of the inserts that were used in this were 632. And this I use self-tapping screws. I thought this might vibrate a little bit, so I thought a self-tapping screw would be a little bit more rigid than a brass insert with a fine pitch screw. And here is a little mixing tube. I wanted to use this as the pump's reservoir and also the UV chamber to expose the compound to the UV LEDs. And this was a peel and stick strip here, so I just went ahead and I fished it through the back area to kind of strain relief the wires. And that keeps them from being pinched by the tube that's going to mount on top of that. And I just mounted this with 2 screws to start out. And I did go back and seal all of these areas with some silicone to prevent leaks, so this is kind of just test fitting it here. This is 1/4 inch silicone aquarium style lining. And the tubing diameter was a little smaller from this peristaltic pump, so I had to use a little section of the aquarium tubing to make a firm connection there. And then this is some 1/8 inch tubing. I think this is actually for piping. And this was some camping rod. I got a bundle of these a few years back, and I've been making stuff out of them. I think this is a 280 diameter aluminum rod. And these were 3/4 inch 632 screws. These are the arms. They were mostly meant to spiral around in like a helix pattern. I think I needed a few more of these to really fill that effect out. But I wasn't sure how far this pump could actually pump liquid, so I did not want to go too crazy with the tube length and have it just leak. And I ended up having to super glue these arms on. I tried hot glue, but it just wasn't working. And here I'm just feeding through all of it but a preset length, so that later when I'm done I can feed that length down the center of the tube to the pump. This is a lot like lacing your shoes, just running it through the eyelets and kind of positioning them finally. It was weird because with the width of the heads on these, it ended up giving a much more square effect rather than a nice gentle curve. I thought with this being broken up into quadrants that you'd get a nice gentle radius that was easy to hold. But with the ends of these brackets being so wide, it kind of held everything in a screw appearance. But it looks like this will have like 2.5 turns or so to the bottom. And a lot of times, this is usually the first time I'm building this that I'm filming. I don't build these ahead of time and then go back and film. This is usually you're watching it be built for the very first time. And here's what I ended up making the glow solution out of. I used this hollow flake stuff that I had used on a motorcycle project. And I thought this might give it a cool effect, but in all honesty, these two pigments didn't really show through the tubing at all. Maybe if the tubing was an acrylic tubing or crystal clear, you'd probably see this a lot better. And this last is the glow solution. This was a glow powder that I've used in epoxy projects, and it glows a lot, so I really felt like this was the best option. And I used water for this. I've used oil in the past for situations like this, but when the oil leaks, which whenever you're sealing stuff like this, it's going to leak, you end up with something that you can't just easily patch up because now it's covered with oil. The benefit is you don't have to worry as much about evaporation, but I thought this had a cool effect. Certainly on the bench it looked really cool. And this mica powder is the coolest stuff in epoxy. But maybe I should have chose a darker blue for this. And then this is the glow powder stuff. This is a very, very fine powder. It's almost like dust. Let me use a different stick for this. Yeah, it doesn't take much of this. This stuff is extremely concentrated. Just 2 little scoops of that. And this is the solution that I'm going to fill the tubing with. And here's kind of the assembly. I left these 2 lines attached so I could actually siphon fill the whole assembly with this liquid. One of these tubes will be removed when I close the system up. And this all runs on 12 volt DC. I believe the adapter I chose was a 2.5 amp at 12 volts. And you can see here is a reservoir with the UV LED. And when you turn on the circuit, I'm hoping to just charge the system with it using vacuum. And it looks like it's taken the fluid right in. Here you can see the chamber starting to fill up. I did end up reversing the current that this flowed so that the small tube was the return for the pump. I found that worked a lot better in stirring the solution to get the glow effect to be stronger. And here's the finished product. I definitely had to make the room really dark to get the camera to pick this up, but to the naked eye, the glow effect is actually quite strong. Thank you for watching, and go ahead and subscribe.